are live, everybody. Welcome back. Well, we're not live, but we are pre-recorded tonight. We're diving into the mind behind one of the most disturbing films of the year, a film that doesn't just explore horror, but really human despair at its rawest. No Tears in Hell was not a typical movie. This movie completely shocked me, took me over. This is Josh from Beyond the Gray Media, and tonight I have Michael Caissie from the film, the director, writer as well, I believe. Welcome, dude. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Absolutely, dude. So we got a lot to talk about with this film right here, No Tears in Hell. Dude, not just jump scares, not monsters, but actual real world true crime. I think this is going to be super interesting. And we talked a little bit behind the scenes about, doing, I guess myself kind of doing some research, and then I just decided not to because I think you did all the research. I'm kind of interested to just kind of learn and react on the fly and kind of on the spot. So yeah, this is going to be a conversation that's going to be a little bit challenging. We got a lot of raw stuff to talk about. So before we do, man, I want to get to know you a little bit, Michael. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your history as a filmmaker, maybe some favorite films, some things, some influences even. I know we're going to dive into that later, but yeah, just a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I grew up in Massachusetts, taught a small town called Wareham, just outside of Cape Cod. That's where I went to all the way through high school. And then I went to Boston College for about 2 years, and I studied business, actually, and decided that I always knew I wanted to be a filmmaker. So it was kind of just prolonging the inevitable. And so packed up the car, drove the 3,000 miles or so to LA, and I've been out here for more than half my life now, which is an interesting thing for me to say. My background in terms of being a filmmaker, storyteller, writer, director, producer, really started with just creative writing. I've always loved writing. It's kind of it's a cliche thing to say, but I honestly, if I couldn't write, I feel like I would die. I would write even if no one ever read it. I've always been like that way since I was a young child. So I started by writing short stories and just creative stuff. And English literature was always my favorite subject. And then in college, actually end of high school, I started doing theater. Just 1 second, I actually didn't realize I have to plug this in here. I started doing theater and really getting into the voices of actors. I guess I was acting in theater, and then in college, in between business classes, all my electives were acting and theater and music and all that stuff. So I was I'm not destined to be going to business school. So moved out to LA. I actually moved out to be a screenwriter and an actor, knowing at some point I wanted to direct. I figured out pretty quickly that behind the camera and behind the keyboard was much more my wheelhouse than actually in front of the camera. So I kind of put the acting to the side. I think it's useful when it comes to writing dialogue and stuff, having at least the background of hearing dialogue and things like that. But I just started. I didn't go to film school. I didn't take any screenwriting classes or any of that stuff. I didn't even read some of the famous screenwriting books. I just started reading produced screenplays, and I would come up with a story and I would go what's a produced movie that's close to this? I was always big into horror, so at the time Scream had come out and it was a big thing, and so I really was studying Kevin Williamson's script, just such a brilliant script if you take it, and Wes Craven was always such a big influence for me as well. So seeing Wes take Kevin's words and how it goes from page to screen really was kind of going to film school for me. So I just wrote School of Hard Knocks. My early scripts I sent to some people way too early. I probably shouldn't have in hindsight. Looking back, I'm oh my God, I can't believe I showed this to anybody. But after a while, you could be a great writer, a great storyteller, and not be a good screenwriter, and vice versa to some extent. F. Scott Fitzgerald is one of the greatest writers, and he was not a good screenwriter. Hollywood brought him out. And, yeah,
I love writing myself. I mean, I'm huge into creative writing. Can you kind of go over the difference between being a writer, creatively writing, and then screenwriting? What are some of the sticking points?
So the thing, if you think about screenwriting, and this is kind of what really got me into the directing chair too, and producing as well, is screenwriting. when you're like a novelist, for example, like you're just creating the whole world. Like, so you're building everything and there's nothing, you're not going to visually see it. So it's just you, the reader, and their imagination. Screenwriting is more like a skeletal kind of approach to storytelling, where it's like I'm putting the pieces together, but it's very streamlined. There's different writers, like Paul Schrader, for example, has more poetic ways of writing. It's more closer to like if you're reading a novel, whereas like if you read like the pilot for The Walking Dead, for example, there's not an ounce of fat, meaning like one little line will give you like the description that you need, whereas like a novel would be paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. So I went backwards, actually. I wrote a screenplay and then I converted it into a novel, and that was like a whole different, because I always wanted to write a novel. It was like a bucket list item for me as well. So of course novelists want to be screenwriters and screenwriters want to be novelists. And so I think the biggest thing is like you have a certain amount of like real estate, if you will, for like a feature film. When I started this, it would be like 120 pages, and if you look at a screenplay page, it's not full. It's very scattered, so it's not a full, like, if you think of like a word count, if you yourself as a writer, my screenplays tend to be about 200 to 250 words per page, whereas a novel would probably be double that at least. Yeah. So it's the same kind of page, just less filled in. So there's also like the tech, like, you know, when we're going into like, if I were writing this scene about us talking, I would say like interior, you know, Michael's apartment, you know, Zoom, and then like a little description, and then it would say our characters, and then you kind of go that way there. So it's like the real estate is so much shorter. You have to get in. It was like 120 pages when I started. Now feature films are like 90 to 95, so it's gotten even more condensed because of screen times and just.
So you're kind of letting the actors show the emotion. You're not being as descriptive with.
100%, yeah, and then again, different writers do different things. Like there's a parenthetical. So like if I would say like Michael and I would have a line, you can put a parenthetical underneath a name, and if I'm angry, I can put angry in there, right? But like if I'm doing my job and telling the story, you use those few and far between. One of the things that when I see younger writers, myself included when I was younger, if there's just parentheticals with all these actions, like you're kind of just giving too much. Let the actor do that. Obviously, if you and I are in a screaming match, I don't have to put angry in that parentheticals. I can put an exclamation point, but after we're punching each other in the face, it's pretty obvious that we're not talking hushed tones, right? So there's all that aspect to it. I started writing screenplays. I was able to, this was early 2000s. I went to Sundance a couple times. I volunteered at Sundance, and at one of the parties I had met the manager, and they asked for some of the scripts I had. I was able to develop some of them, and I was finally starting to get some traction. I was finally getting screenplays that I think were professional, and people were looking at them. And so the story behind that, though, was the first script that I was ever supposed to have to go out. I did a play in high school called Compulsion, which was like the same thing as Alfred Hitchcock's The Rope. It's based on the Leopold Loeb murders from the 1950s in Chicago. They were obsessed with Nietzsche and trying to do his Superman theory, where these two kind of young kids kidnapped another kid. They were trying to put the perfect murder together. So Alfred Hitchcock's The Rope, I think, covers that same story. Compulsion was a Meyer Levins play that I did. So I had written one, and I was like thinking that if you were such a narcissistic personality, one of these two guys, because they're geniuses, the guys in Chicago, they went to the University of Chicago, but they were in like college at like 15 or something like that. So they were like incredible high IQ people. One was very dominant, one was the other one. But I was like, if the dominant one was suicidal and didn't want to live, he could never pull the trigger himself. But what if he could get the other guy so mixed up that he kills him, and then he has set it up so that the guy, if he doesn't figure out how to do the perfect murder after he's dead, he's going to get caught. So I kind of deconstructed it that way, and I was so excited. I was like, this is such a great script. I was in a movie theater, I think in Burbank, and they had like trailers above my head, and I heard someone talking, and it sounded like, I was like, oh shit, oh shoot, oh shoot, oh shoot. And I look up, and it was Murder by Numbers, the trailer for Murder by Numbers, the Michael Pitt, Ryan Gosling movie. So they beat me to the punch. So I called my manager, and I was like, yeah, I think my script's dead right now. And I saw that movie, and it's grown on me, but I was like, oh, my idea was so much better. So even as like you start to get traction going this way, there's things that kind of throw you a curveball. So that happened. And then I surviving like any other person living in LA or New York, trying to chase a dream, or Chicago for that matter, you get these day jobs. And I got really good at, because of the way I was raised, I would take what were supposed to just be part-time day jobs, and I would make careers out of them. Like I would just advance in companies and start making really good money, and then I would be writing less and less. And I walked away from 2 really well-paying jobs because I was like, this isn't what I moved out here for. 2 different totally careers. So I was running restaurants at one point. Al Pacino, Carl Urban, Brittany Snow movie Hangman that I co-wrote. I'm trying to think of what year this was. That was the first script that I had optioned, and my writing partner Charles Harding and I had optioned it, and it was a found footage script at that point. But it sat in development so long, and was so many different directors were attached or circling. Like Chuck Russell was, Pete Travis was at one point, John Travolta was attached to star at one point. That by the time it got to a place where the producers had finally found like a director they wanted to use, found footage had kind of came and gone. So we had to pull it out of found footage, and I'm not exaggerating, the amount of rewrites on the script were just crazy. And then the actors get involved, and each actor has their own notes. And so it was like, again, going to film school, having no idea what it was like to have a script optioned, then worked on with the director, producers, actors, then made, and then to have it come out. And that's the film that kind of got me in the director's chair, because I had sold another script. It was called Sin Origin. It was a vampire movie, kind of in the vein of Let the Right One In, where this mob boss is like locked down. There's going to be like a mob war, and this little girl runs into him, and they let her in. And of course, there's these like these religious zealots that are trying to get into the thing, and they're killing the mob people, and it turns out that she's a vampire, and they're trying to kill the vampire, and it's like, who's really right and wrong? And there's Rigoberto is this director in Mexico. He did a movie called 54 Mile, or 50 Mile something, like Kilometer 50. It's escaping me. I'll look it up, I'll send it to you. It's a phenomenal horror movie, Mexican horror movie. So Rigo has like this great following in Mexico. So they translated it into Spanish. He directed it. It came out phenomenal. It's like an action horror movie, but it's never been released domestically, so you can't watch it anywhere. So it's so frustrating because it's a really good movie. So that happened. Then I had a few other scripts get optioned. They never got made. And then Hunter's Moon, which was my directorial debut with Thomas Jane and Jay Moore and Sean Patrick Flannery. That came about. Arnold Rifkin, who put together Hunter's Moon, had approached me and said, do you still want to direct? I think I have this financier. Can we do something for under $2 million? This was originally called The Orchard. We stuck with that financier for a while, but we couldn't get like a casting piece. So I just decided to just produce it myself with some other producers, and had no idea what I was doing. So that was another film school. And that movie, we had to recast the lead at one point for off-screen stuff that occurred. But so we shot half of that in Kentucky, and then 2 years later shot the rest of it in LA, and had to marry those 2 locations together that looked nothing alike. And so we did an okay job considering. But so that was like my directing, producing thing. And then I got into some TV. Purgatory was a TV show, 16 episodes that I wrote and co-directed in Armenia. It was an Armenian TV show that got translated into English and Americanized. And went and shot that, and just kind of like hustling. I just did a film in Missouri with Jeff Fahey and Mina Savari and Lachlan Monroe called Rough Draft. That's in post that I'm really excited about. And obviously No Tears happened. I think No Tears was right around December of 2020. The executive producer, Michael Tadros Jr., called me and said, or I called him, I can't remember, and said, I have a fellow executive producer that wants to do this serial killer movie. I think you'll be right as the writer. I said, can I direct it too? And he said, well, let's start with the writing. I'll see where it comes. And you and I were talking offline. I'd never heard of this serial killer before, and I'm a big serial killer guy. So this executive producer's name's Alex. He's the one that got the storyboard credit. He kind of was like, here's this guy I want you to do a story on. And gave me some information, gave me some links. I looked it up. I was like, holy crap, this is wild. Like, wild is the understatement, right? So yeah, I wrote it, and this is something that I have repeated in other interviews and stuff, it was incredibly hard just to even write, having young kids, and I kept taking breaks, and I was like, just so emotionally like drained, and just there's like I never experienced like knowing that it's a true story, there's like an added weight to it too.
Oh my God, dude,
where it's like, you know, and we can get into the details, and you tell me when you want to do that. I'll let you kind of navigate that. Yeah. But there were some creative choices that I made for filming reasons, also for personal reasons. Then there was some for narrative reasons, and so that happens quite a bit in terms of like taking a true story. I wanted to stay true as much as I could to the story, but there's just some things I just couldn't do for many reasons, and I'll list them off whenever you want me to do that. But
we're gonna.
So that's kind of my thing. I live just outside of LA in the Long Beach area. I'm a father. I'm fortunate to say that I get up every day, and it's scary because it's not consistent. The film industry has been really tough the last couple of years, in particular this year. So yeah, you have to. It's a lot of people are calling it quits because they have to for survival reasons and stuff. And so I'm fortunate. You know, I'm still here. Perseverance, like talent will get you somewhere. Then you know, persistence and determination, but perseverance, I think, is the biggest thing that I just refuse. I don't have a plan B. Yeah. Like, this is it, man. This is what I was born to do.
Came through in the film, like it comes through.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. So, and that's what's so interesting. When I went back and rewatched it, first of all, no tears. It takes a fucking piece of you. It just does. I watched it. Somebody must have. I mean, to hear it's been around since 2020. You know, it's crazy that.
Yeah. Weird, right?
Like it came on my landmark because somebody, you know, and then I was like, I don't even remember seeing any hype for this, and so
the movie didn't come out. No, I started writing in 2020.
Right. Okay.
We shot it in 2022. What happened, and this is weird because a lot of times when films seem to take forever to get finished, there's like a problem. That wasn't the case on this one. The producers had done so many films back to back, and they were using like one post house, and so it was kind of like a line to get through the editing and all that stuff. And so after a while, I was kind of going like, shoot, is this movie ever going to get there? And so yeah, it took from filming to actually coming out, it was like a 4-year window, and it had nothing to do with problems at all, like, which is unusual, because even with Hunter's Moon, you know, we had to recast because of a Me Too thing, and it did take some time. We had to recast, we had to like get some more money, we had to do some different things to make that work. This was not the case with that. It was just kind of in line and waiting. And it was a lower budget one out of the string of films that were there. So I think it was kind of financially, it was like, oh, we'll get to that one later. Because, you know, clearly, like, Luke Baines is phenomenal, and Gwen Van Damme is amazing. The rest of the cast is brilliant. But there's no like name, if you will, to kind of.
It's like when you watch it, I definitely am like, I've seen that guy before. I've seen her before. Smaller roles, smaller movies that, you know, they just absolutely crushed it. I wish I could remember. I don't know if it was IMDb or iHorror. I found it somewhere. Someone was like, this is going to be the most emotionally, you know, I say damaging film to get through. And I put it on my Amazon Prime list or whatever.
Nice.
Came home from work. I had a bunch of movies I wanted to watch and review. And when I put it on, it draws you in. I don't know if it's the Alaska, like the remote setting or whatever, but there was a moment where my wife had fallen asleep, and she knows I watch fucked up films. That's kind of a thing that I do. And so there was parts where I was like, I hope she doesn't wake up right now. Like, this is really going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Like, when you check the runtime of a movie that's difficult to get through, you're like, okay, job well done, because I was like, there's still 25 minutes left. We're talking headless bodies, necro stuff, cannibalism. I was like, oh my God. But it's shot so well, and it looks so nice that it kind of wraps up all these horrible things. And I want to get into the music and stuff too here in a minute, but so I guess we kind of covered like what the initial spark was and where that kind of came from. What did you uncover when you had to research? I can't even say the guy's last name. Alexander.
I think it's Alexander Spesivtsev, something close to that. Yeah, I tried to like put it into like Google for like the audio, because I'm so bad with like names like that too, and I've just been calling him Alex, but
there's so many continents in a row when you look him up.
It's out there. It's so yeah, he's known as like the Siberian Ripper, and so as I was doing the research, kind of the linear narrative of his life, if you will, is, you know, he had some kind of messed up childhood, and there was very little specifics that I was able to dig up. And you and I were talking offline about this. I think since the film was announced, which was a couple months ago, I've been noticing a lot more like information's out there now, because I think people are just, I think now they're more interested in it or whatever. So there's more information. And this, I was writing the script, and maybe AI was around before then, but like you can, and I don't advocate AI taking writers' jobs, but like there is something cool about AI where if I can say like, give me the last 10 World Series champion pitchers, like, or whatever, it'll crank it out, and it's a lot easier than me just Googling it. This didn't exist when I was doing all the research, so for all the voiceover stuff and all the quotes, I was just meticulously going in. But his narrative is he had a really messed up childhood. He lived in Siberia. This was in the early 90s, and so Russia as a whole was like really going through a transition politically, and there's just massive sweeping poverty, and things were really, it's just like, you know, pre-real internet, and you see this a lot in like true crime movies and documentaries and stuff. Like there was no like Interpol data, like maybe there was an Interpol database, but it wasn't like streamlined like it is now, or there's no FBI, and there was no like information sharing. So the things I did discover was that he slept in the same bed with his mom until he was 12. Dude. Which I was like, okay, yeah, that's, you know, I didn't really show that in the film, but I don't get into any of the possible sexuality behind it. There was stuff that he had an abusive dad. I took some liberties around what that actually entailed in that one scene. Yeah, so he was an outcast, and then where it starts to get crazy, when he was right around 18, he had a girlfriend. And this is where he started his like, well, I don't know if he killed her or if he attacked her. I think it was attempted murder, but he chained her to a radiator and he tortured her. And I think they found her, and I think she survived, but he was then put into a mental institution, and he was institutionalized. And that thing with the needle for trying to be more virile and stuff like that's all real. That's all documented. That he thought that would help him sexually. It did the exact opposite. So that happened in the institution. Then they released him, and almost immediately he started, you know, finding. And this is one of the things we changed in the movie was he was taking kids, like young kids. You know, I elevated it. All of the actors and actresses were at least 18 plus. Yeah. Some of them in their 20s. But we're talking like young kids.
It would be so shocking to have that. I mean,
I couldn't film being a parent for one thing, and then also just logistically, you know, we did have the one kid, McDonald is his last name. He played the younger Alex, and he was 12 when we were filming, and I had this whole thing in my mind of like how I was gonna shoot his stuff and not show this stuff, and kind of try and protect his 12-year-old mind. And his mom was like, no, he read the whole script. We're okay with it.
He's good.
What he was doing. I'm like, oh, that makes my job so much easier. But I was like, well, okay. So yeah, other than that, that's all the other kids. So I elevated that. So he was picking on homeless people because everybody was really struggling back then. And he had this MO, and you know, I got some slack in some of the reviews that I was really pushing violence towards females because the male victims were executed quickly and the females were really drawn out and sexualized. And I'm like, guys, this isn't my MO. Like, I'm just
he's the one.
This is what he did. He
People
didn't want to. If he didn't want to chain guys to the radiator and girls were his thing, I'm not going to argue. I'm trying to stick to the story here. So it's just kind of really crazy to me, like the things that some people pick out. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, it wasn't until there was very little that I could find on the police investigation. But what I did find was that at one point they matched the MO or something. Somehow they figured out that this could be the guy because of the area, but it's not him because he's still institutionalized, because the records showed that he was still in the institution even though he was no longer in the institution. So crazy, this is again like, you know, pre-really internet databases and stuff like that. So they just lost track of him basically. And it wasn't until the little bit more affluent girls got kidnapped, and that part with the neighbor, I mean, he gets, not to ruin the film, spoiler for anybody, he does get caught, and gets caught, and the way that he gets caught and discovered is factual to how he gets caught. So that's kind of like the details, and you know, where I did get some creative licensing, all of the voiceover stuff. Obviously, I don't have access to his head, so all of that.
That you know, when you watch that, especially if you've seen this once, that's what you pick up on. That's what you kind of lean in. Not only just
Yeah.
the actors doing a damn good job, but the writing, the narration. It's like, did he really say all this stuff? And then you just kind of want to, for those true crime junkies out there, I mean, that's a real thing. Like, you want to, I don't know why we want to get that close to the darkness, but you get close in this movie. So.
Well, I think that was like my goal too. And I think the only quote in the film that's actually his for sure is the very last line about the teeth and the smiling and the wolf. That's his quote. So I knew I wanted to end the movie with that quote. I knew all of the, full disclosure, I consider myself to be a good filmmaker, but I wasn't in the Alaska wilderness shooting wolves, eating carcasses and stuff. Those were, I had to purchase some of those footage, but those were in the script. In fairness, if you read the script, I would say like a shot of birds flying off of a fence, and I found the footage and I actually put it into a spreadsheet, and I told the producers, like, hey, this is the money that you're gonna need to do for this, because a wolf growling, a wolf howling. I went through and I found all that, so I was kind of deconstructing it. I had never done that before, and part of that came when I was shooting Hunter's Moon, sorry. I didn't really think of transition shots as much, and so there's a lot of transition specifically in this film, and so
the ending, it's killer with the wolf stuff. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I've rewound that, just the way he's looking at the camera, and then you kind of fade in and you go to the wolf, and then his narration over it.
Yeah,
it's intense, man.
Yeah,
and then you get the actual photo, and the you kind of detail the script, crimes at the end.
Yeah. The eyes at the end is the homage to Psycho and that
totally
shot for
the
sure.
Norman Bates, yeah, dude.
Yeah, so I really leaned into that, and then we as far as like production, we went with a skeletal crew to Whittier, Alaska to film, and then so all of those landscapes.
And what was the reason? I mean, was it more palatable, like, to American audiences to have somewhere we would kind of know? I mean.
Yeah, I think it's more relatable. I think like when you say Alaska, people can relate to that. There was like,
because I heard people bitching about that too. Like, well, they did film it in the right place. I'm like, get the fuck up. I don't. Whatever.
I stopped reading, so we have a PR guy, and he's nice. He sends me these emails and like, here's this, and he'll give like what the rating is, and it'll be like positive, negative, mixed, or whatever. Anything that was mixed or not mixed or above, I stopped reading, because some of the stuff that was negative, I was just like. They were just dragging me like, oh, it was nothing that Alaska could never compare to Siberia in the 1990s. So I'm like, Siberia in the 1990s doesn't exist today anyways. So
the point is really they didn't even know the crime was out there until you made the movie. So it's like, most people didn't even know who he was.
Well, and they're like, oh, but the poverty wouldn't be the same. And I'm like, but one guy was like, admittedly, I'd never been to Alaska. And I was like, then you don't know. There's poverty everywhere, man. Like when we were filming in Whittier, not Whittier itself, because it's a very secluded town. But in Anchorage, the moment you get in the middle of Anchorage, it's like any other city. You
can't even gamble. Everywhere. You can't do anything in Anchorage. Like, I've only been to Alaska once, but anyway.
Yeah, so
it's remote.
That part of that was moving there. Part of it is like to keep that cold, isolated element. And Whittier, you have to go through like this 2-mile long tunnel, single lane on one side and one on the other. It's very claustrophobic, the tunnel itself. And you get to the other side, and the tunnel closes at night, and it closes during storms, and the whole town is like 250 people. It has kind of like that 30 Days of Night kind of feel to it, which is another film I really love. And there's something about cold horror films with the weather that I've always just, I want to put the air conditioning on really, and just, or have it be raining and stuff and watch it. That was kind of an influence on this too. And then there's an Australian film called Snowtown.
We talked about that,
that I have mentioned quite a bit. I just want to give it its due because it's such an amazing movie.
That's the Christopher Lloyd?
No, Snowtown is Justin.
The two boys though that are.
It's the older guy who's using the younger guy, and they're in Australia. It's based on true story. They were originally killing pedophiles.
I'm sorry, I was thinking my best friend Dom or whatever. But
there's another. Snowtown, and it's the actors, but the rest of it, if you look on IMDb, I think are all local hires, and most of them don't have headshots, and so it's just a credit to how beautiful the film shot, the DP and the director. I know the director went on to do Assassin's Creed, so he did that movie, got some traction, I think through Sundance, went into Assassin's Creed, and now I just saw another film that he did that's on Hulu actually. Based on a true story, not a serial killer one. This one's like a bank robbery thing in the 70s that has Guy Pearce in it, I believe. Was it Guy Pearce? I might be misquoting that, but so yeah, the pacing of that film, that film was like, there's one scene in the bathtub. So this was like the whole reasoning behind my process of this was like the scene in that movie in the bathtub is so hard to watch, and it sat with me for years. And I thought, what if I try and make a whole movie that has that feeling?
Well, it's those two kids. I mean,
yeah,
it's a brutal movie, dude.
Yeah. So that's kind of and you know, and I have talked about this before, but I pushed myself on this film to not say cut when I wanted to say cut, because it was just like so horrible and hard to watch. And I know they're actors, and you get to say cut and get to say, you know, have a laugh in between or whatever, try to break some of this tension or whatever. But it's just sitting here like, and people were in tears at the monitor, and I had to take a break. And so I knew like on day 2, I had never had this feeling before where I was like, holy shit, this is something different. Like I
can't imagine being behind the camera, because I felt that watching it.
Yeah.
Like for someone, it is a very powerful film. Like, and to be the one trying to get the emotions out of, I just can't. I mean,
yeah, I was very fortunate. Debbie Sheridan was the casting director. I mean, this cast is so good from top to bottom, and I was just so impressed. Like, it just works so well. And Gev is my DP. I worked with him a bunch of times. I say it till I'm blue in the face. He's a genius. It's so beautifully shot, because that was my pitch to him, was like, I want to make the most fucked up movie, but I also want it to be like oddly beautiful too, while feeling claustrophobic, and you know.
So let me jump. So that's one thing that I wrote down that I really. So is it? There's this weird thing about this film. Not only just the music too, but the way that it's shot. Was there color, like timing or grading at the end, or did it look that bleak? Because it pulls you in. It's so kind of like blue, and the hues of it. Yeah. That bathroom scene, man.
Yeah. This was a different filmmaking process for me, because I had worked with Geb before, and so we knew each other pretty well. But like our kind of MO for working together is like, I'll say like, you know, here's the script, give it a read, and like I'll have some like visual references, like, oh, go watch this movie. I like the color palettes, or tonally I like this, or like this is like stylized like with just the movements of the camera or something like that. And we kind of find that marriage, if you will. So we had an idea of colors before, and we knew we were going to be shooting the backdrops and stuff, but the bulk of the movie, the actual performances and stuff, and all the inside stuff was filmed in Alabama in the middle of the summer. So most of it was on a sound stage. So I had Sarah was our production designer. She did such a great job. So we were able to build Alex's apartment from scratch, basically. And I'd never done this before. So she was like, what do you want us to do? And I was like, I had shots already done. Like, I was like, you know, there's a scene where he's smoking a cigarette and the camera racks focus to her in the thing, or there's the scene where the mom's sitting in the chair and then we see the rack focus to the girl, and then we know that she didn't go home with the groceries or whatever. Those were all designed, the rooms were designed so that the camera could be set up specifically to get these shots.
Was there a movie specific? I mean, we talked Snowtown. It's got a little like Dahmerness to it. It's got like this grungy, but also like it's weird how it kind of pulls you in, the color tone. Like it's. Yeah,
I think, I thought a lot about in and out of focus is a big thing that we did here, racking focus, things like that, and letting audio kind of speak to certain things and let the mind, like giving the reader on the page for the script and then giving the viewer enough of like, you're going in this direction, and then I'm going to just kind of let you fill in the pieces, because your mind is already going to start to go to like some really like, you know, the abuse when he was younger, for example, with the closed door. That whole scene was by design, and having it been frozen, and you know, thematically that like she's literally stuck wanting to save him and there's nothing she can do, and so the being frozen, that was already in the script. And so I don't, Dahmer, the TV show happened way after this movie was already in the can, so I don't really know in terms of like Henry, Portraits of a Serial Killer.
Totally
has some of that to it, you know.
It's grimier than that, though. It feels.
That's kind of what I was looking. I was like, what are movies? So I hate to go like, oh, I was trying to make the most fucked up movie ever, but there was some kind of that a little bit, right? So I was like, you know, I'm a big fan of serial killer movies, so I'm like,
do you have extreme films that you like? I mean, is this? Well, that's kind of what I'm into. Not just like torture porn or anything, but is there ones that certainly speak to you?
That's the weird part. Like, I don't like a Serbian film and stuff like that. That's not really my cup of tea. Like,
but that's another movie that looks crazy good.
Yeah.
Like the Blu-ray just by itself, you're like, how does this look so nice for such fucked up subject matter?
So I think that's like, but I'm not like, Seven is like the godfather of serial killer movies as far as I'm concerned, and it's like,
and that
it
has
does
a
a lot.
Color palette too.
But we did, like, I was like, Seven is so genius because you don't see the horror. It's always the after the math. So I'm like, what if we see horror? And what if we do more of a fly on the wall? And what if instead of being from Mills and the two detectives, what if we do it, we're all from John Doe's perspective. Like, we're doing Seven from John Doe's perspective, basically, is what we were trying to do. And also, like, the fly on the wall is very particular. Like, you almost feel like I wanted people to be like, I shouldn't be watching this. Like, it's like,
when you're zooming in, like slowly focusing, like that bathtub scene, and people that haven't seen the film, there's a body in there, and it's just so nonchalant, and the color's like blue, but it's kind of like shimmery, like anyway, I love it. Yeah, so I think this one, more than any other film I've done, a lot of like different camera movements, a lot of like specific, really dialed in. Shot list was very specific. Some stuff I go a little bit more like wing it in terms of like what we're going to do. But this was like the shot list was being handed out on set to the crew. So we kind of had an idea. We didn't stick to it verbatim. We always make some changes and stuff. But because we were able to build the location, the bulk of it, the inside of the apartment, it was a very controlled environment, and we didn't have surprises, and we could pre-light, and so we didn't have to worry about loading in and loading out, or we only have this restaurant for so much time, and so it was none of that. It was just like, here's our play area for X amount of time. And so you'd be shooting a scene, and if you had inspiration or you thought something could go a different way, you were set up to really, explore some new stuff.
Yeah, and it was cool. Like, there's a scene when the detective comes out of the tent and he's talking to the uniformed officer. And I had a totally different setup shot or whatever, and Gavin put the camera down, and the camera was on, like not filming, but I could see it, and it was just like underneath that yellow tape, and I was like,
right,
yeah, come here.
It's a cool shot.
Let's just do this. He goes, oh yeah, that is good. So like sometimes things like that, when you're dialed in, can happen because you're not running 6,000 miles. It's still a tight budget, it was still a tight schedule by filmmaking standards, but we weren't, because Gib and I have worked on before that and since then much faster paced stuff because of necessity, and this still was a quick shoot, a low budget movie, but I felt like this one, the prep was really well done.
Does it help that you wrote it? I'd heard of Hunter's Moon. I feel like I have it saved somewhere, but I haven't finished it. Did you write that one as well?
Yeah, I've written, directed. I'm trying to think. The only thing that I directed, and it was like basically a ghost directing job, was a TV show called Nova Vita, where the writer did a great job. I came in and I did a polish, and the director did a great job, but I kind of came in and helped doing like half of the 10 seasons. We kind of splintered units and stuff. I think to date, that's the only thing that I've directed that I haven't written. Everything else I've either written or co-written.
And so writing and directing, you get kind of free reign to really get your vision out there.
For me, it's easier, and also I think I always want to be respectful for, because I've written many films that have been made that I have not directed or produced. And it's always hard, no matter who is the director, who the producer is, or who the actor is, because even though it's just, like I said earlier, it's like a skeletal thing, and it's in filmmaking is supposed to be a director's medium. I didn't really understand that aspect of it until I started directing. Like, I just thought, like, here's the story, just shoot the story, and this will be amazing. And it doesn't really work that way. So, but there's pros, and another pro is if you do have some curveballs come out, something you have to change. Being the writer, I don't need to ask the writer to fix it. I can just fix it myself. Or it also gives me freedoms with the actors to like, because I'm not a director or a writer that is so stuck to the dialogue. Like, it doesn't have to be everything I have on the page, as long as it's going in the narrative that it needs to go and
they can explore.
It's the story and doesn't mess up your fellow actors. Let's talk about it beforehand. I don't really want surprises as much as possible, but yeah, I find that once actors start, because there's things that work on the page, and then once the actors start doing it, I'm like, oh, that worked on the page doesn't work quite as well in real time, so let's tweak this a little bit. And there's just I just really enjoy it because writing is so solitary, and then when you're on the film, there's such an energy that comes with directing that's such a high. It's like a runner's high, but like for 15 days straight. It's just so crazy. It doesn't go, and then when you're done with the film, you go crashing, you go into like functioning depression for a while because you can't match that.
Every day you're probably just
going to the grocery store afterwards is like a nightmare for me. Why is everybody walking so slow?
Well, let's talk about the other piece. So you got written and directed. I want to talk about the score quickly.
Yeah.
The film itself is bleak. The film deals with a lot of heavy issues. You got a lot of murder. You got cannibalism. You got all kinds of weird stuff happening. But the score to this film almost feels like it makes it okay. I don't want to say whimsical even, but it makes it feel like it's kind of familiar. And so I wanted to know, like, as these cellos kind of sweep and saw back and forth from victim to victim, how do you decide music? Is it something that's complete already? Is it somebody you've worked with before that kind of knows the vision? Or do they send over samples? Because the music makes this feel safer in a weird way. It does,
in a weird way.
I really liked it.
So. It makes it palatable. And so, that was an interesting thing because Alex, the executive producer and story by credit, he was like, I want this to be all big orchestrics, like operatic pieces and orchestra pieces. And I'm like, it's interesting. I don't know if the film can hold all of that. Like, I think that might be a little too big and too sweeping. And plus, I don't know about like money and buying that, and if we're buying it outright or if we're trying to recreate it. We don't have
just pre-done stuff.
Yeah, so like if I were to just get like something by Mozart or whatever, I don't know what that costs, right? So there's some kind of cost involved, unless it's public domain, and then that's a different story. But otherwise, you can recreate it with your own orchestra. But like, we don't have the budget to have a full-fledged orchestra sitting there with the composer and doing the thing.
Right.
There's none of that. So I had said, like, let's kind of try and find like a happy medium. I like the idea of it being, because part of the filmmaking for this was like, can we keep everything elevated? Just always elevate. So it's grungy feeling, but like I wanted to have a sophisticated kind of feel to it, right? So Randy, I think his last name is Caissie. I'm probably butchering that. Sorry, Randy, if I am. He's the composer. I've never worked with him before. Mark Atkins ran our post. Mark's a good friend. He recommended Randy. Randy's out of the UK, and I had a couple conversations with Randy, and I was like, here's what the EP's looking for. I understand that there's limitations. I kind of just would like something that's elevated, but like a little bit more scarce in sense of like, I always think of like the Halloween theme where it's just like, ding, ding, ding. So it's almost a theme song in this movie, right? Like that recognizable tone that keeps coming back. And so Randy's like, no, I got it. I know exactly what you mean. And he'd kind of come up with that.
Like during the snow scenes, and then it comes
there's a lot of like that. And so he was like, what do you think about this? And I was like, oh, that is great. So like we're fortunate to have him on this because I didn't have a whole lot of notes. He kind of put it together, and I was like, it worked on what I was at. I don't know if it hit what Alex was looking for, but I think Alex got it. I said, I know that you have a vision for this, as do I, but there's also logistical things, and I don't think you want to spend $100,000 that we don't have for sure on just music. It's just not going to work. So once you start talking like logical stuff, sometimes executive producers and producers are like, no, I get that. So wearing a producer hat, it helps because I know a lot of directors want. I try and find a fine line balance between what I would like. I would love to have a 3-month shoot to do like this big crazy thing. It just doesn't exist at the budget point that I'm on right now. So
sure.
Although I don't know if I actually would want to shoot for 3 months, especially not a film like this. That would just be horrific.
Oh, it's the emotional toll. Well, it's weird. This music, it has this ability to, if it was just kind of ambient noise that was just always kind of rumbling, this film might feel like you can't get through it. Like it might push it over the edge, especially for the normal viewer. Like, I'm used to watching intense films and I really like them, but the score, I mean, it's like a character. When he's coming in a way, which is like you said,
pretty much. Yeah, he's kind of got his theme song, and I thought between that and the landscape shots, and there's like some people didn't quite like this, but there's just shots of just Alex just smoking, and I'm trying to give people a moment to like breathe and just kind of,
you know what's coming for sure.
Yeah, it's part of it is like there is a tension of like, okay, oh crap, what's next? But like if it's just continuously torture porn, if you will, it doesn't work, right? Like there has to be some kind of moments in between for someone to process and to think, and also like again, we're fly on the wall, so he is having these moments of like just crazy manic whatever to just solitary to diary to voiceover to cooking,
right.
To, it's like a little bit of a seesaw, if you will.
We're trying to figure out exactly what's wrong with him. We're wondering, is this for food source? That's where I kind of started getting a little bit uncomfortable, trying to wonder how many victims can really keep somebody. I don't want to spoil the film for people that haven't seen it, but that is a different, when you start talking about soup and just survival, stakes get a little higher.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was, from the research I was doing, I think there was some truth to, they weren't homeless like the kids that he was doing, but they were, he was skinny. He was not doing well. I think that there was some actual survival to it, wrapped up with all this other horror. It's just, part of it is like, I think this is one of the things with serial killers is it's like, are they born that way, or are they created because of their environment? Absolutely. And in this case, it's maybe some of both. And so I kind of wanted to leave it a little bit open-ended because let the viewer decide that. But
yeah, how was he yeah, exactly, conditioned or part of his environment? I think people assume you make a fucked up film, you must be fucked up yourself, but that's not the case. You were talking about changing some things, taking a little bit of creative liberties with children, and then also with respect to the bodies compared to the true story.
Yeah, the big one was changing it from children to young adults to adults. The other one, and I don't know if I say this completely honest, I don't see anything where he was actually into necrophilia. He would just continuously rape his victims. And so when I was putting this together, I'm like, how can I ask viewers to sit through all of this other horrific stuff and then go through these graphic rape scenes and screaming? And I'm just like, I know this sounds horrible, but if they're already dead and I shoot it somewhat creatively and I don't overly use it to be divisive, and so that's one thing. So if the killer ever does watch the film, I'm sorry. I know maybe that's where you draw the line, but it's trying to put someone to sit through this movie and just have women constantly screaming and trying to show some kind of simulated non-consensual sex is not something I want.
Constantly. Yeah. And, talking to people that I've recommended this film with, they do appreciate, especially people that are not used to, I guess, more extreme films, they appreciate when you cut away and you use creative license where it's just him staring at something and you know what's happening. But then there's a lot of nudity. There's a lot of, he was trying different ways to feel more virile, like you said. So there is some scenes that are going to make people uncomfortable.
Yeah, and in full disclosure, I wasn't there at the radiator, so how he actually was torturing them, that's creative license. The lobotomy thing and the plastic bag, that's unfortunately me.
Those scenes are so intense, dude.
Yeah, those are, you know what it is I've used plastic bags over the head in other films and stuff. I just think of like things that terrified me as a human being. And I'm like, I just can't even wrap my head around having that happen to me or see that.
Not get any air or anything.
Yeah, it's just that plastic bag was designed to be shot for that. Like, so there's little micro holes in it and stuff. So she was completely safe, which is nice.
That is nice.
And her and I, Audrey plays the actress. Her and I have become good friends, but that was hard to watch. She really didn't hold back either.
Was she missing an eye at that point? I'm trying to put it all together.
Yeah, that was after.
Okay.
So yeah.
So she's already struggling. And then
she's drooling. She's not there mentally. It's just,
In the beginning, you feel like either one of those girls could be the final girl because they're kind of supporting each other. So you don't really know who to root for as the viewer.
Yeah, I leaned into a little bit of the horror trope of like, which is the one that's supposed to be like, if you were to meet the two of them in a Friday the 13th movie, I think you would pick the one that ended up almost surviving, if you will. So it was kind of like casting choice for that, for sure. Tatiana played the other girl. I worked with her in Purgatory before, and she's such an amazing actress. So I needed somebody that could carry all of that weight, emotional weight, and just be captivating and be able to balance off with Luke, and she's just so great.
Yeah, she killed it, literally.
Yeah, she's a fan. Both of them. Both, I mean, again, this whole cast, I'm just thrilled. I've had the chance to work with a bunch of them on other stuff since then, which has been great. But Audrey, not Tatiana, who was the Radiator, Eric, who played the police officer, the uniform officer. I worked with them on Purgatory. Gabriella, who plays the smelling salts girl.
Yeah.
I've worked with her on a couple projects since then. We became good friends on this one. Audrey, I've worked with on a couple other projects. I just worked with Larry, who is in the opening scene asking for the cigarette. He was just in the Jeff Fahey movie with me, so I was excited to work with him on that. So yeah, when I find actors that can bring it, I'm just going to keep going back to that well, because
into it, man.
It's such a blessing as a director and a writer.
Yeah, they did such a good job.
I think you can keep it in there. People love animals, man. I couldn't kill an animal. If I killed an animal in this movie, that would where people would draw the line.
Oh, they would hate that. So I want to talk about visual choices in the creative process, and specifically, I was drawn to the film's portrayal of kind of, I don't know if I want to say the Stockholm syndrome that's happening, but the mom in this movie is so good. Like, she does such a good job. Like, in a way, I'm kind of rooting for her, which feels like, she's a legendary actress. I've seen her in lots of stuff before, but she just makes you feel so, I don't know, like, what was that like?
Yeah, I think so. Like, the actual interaction between the two of them, there really wasn't a lot to dig up on, other than the fact that she was complicit and, like, in helping, and she did get arrested and all that stuff too. But I just thought of, like, what kind of dynamic would a mother-son have, in this kind of thing? And it, again, it goes back to, like, Psycho, for example, too, and just this thing where he obviously has some kind of emotional ties to his mom. For order, like any kind of mom-son relationship or mom-daughter relationship, if you add in this extra element of these horrors, what would it take that emotional tie to as a new height, right? So I also wanted her to be not so one note, because part of Alex's performance is it's not that it's one note. It's just he's not likable. It's very hard to root for Alex. Clearly, like, he's atrocious, right? And even when his mom is trying to steer him into the right direction for his own protection, he's still so lost that she can't do that. So I thought that by layering in scenes where she's helpless initially in flashbacks, then she's empowering, but then she's also kind of giving him this device of, like, here's how we can solve problems moving forward in an early age. And that, again, that's a creative license. I don't know if that scene with the dad ever existed, so that's not.
Well, the end scene with her, like, she's down. She's for the cause. There's the scene where she's by the river as well, and she's just so casually just dropping like, dude.
And I think when, to her credit, she came with a lot of choices, which was great, but she does a lot of stuff, like a lot of nuanced things with her performance, like when she's looking out the window. We know that she's kind of trying to make sure that he's safe in her own way, and then trying to clean up the mess, the one last loose end, if you will.
And she's fine with it. She's just totally...
It's just part of, like, I'm coming kind of thing. Or when she's looking at the wall, it's not that he's killing people, it's that he's unraveling and losing it. That kind of
taking too much time. He's going to get them in trouble.
Yeah. So it's just this kind of, like, there is this kind of survivalist too, where she's like, you got to take care of me, and then we're going to get. So there is, like, I think her who she is as a character is very three-dimensional, and I thought Gwen recently passed in I think November. Yeah. So rest in peace. She never got to see the film, which was really sad, because I think she did
such a good job.
Yeah.
The first time I watched it, I remember she freaked me out, and then I watched it twice because I kind of wanted to prep for this, right? And watching it again the third time last night, like, I was like, she's my favorite character in the whole movie. She's just so, like, I don't know. She does such a good job.
She does. And selling us. It was 92 when she filmed this.
Man.
Yeah, she was, she was losing her hearing, or she had pretty much almost lost her hearing completely. So there was just a lot of things and you would never know. I mean, she came to set, she worked her ass off, and she was so gracious. Like, I mean, she was, interestingly enough, like, she's probably one of the easiest actors I've ever had to work with, which is crazy. I was very, we were very aware of like taking care of her and making sure she was, comfortable and stuff, but never complained, never asked for anything. Like, I mean, she, we had some conversations, but by and large, she came to work and it was impressive. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, she was awesome. She's so good in this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
So the visuals and tones, incredibly intense. We talked about some of your cinematic influences. Seven, definitely I pick up on that. Talking about effects and the usage of blood for those people, gorehounds like me, what was that like?
So Nathan Bright is the head special effects artist on the film. Him and his second, Jennifer. We did everything you see in this film is practical. Meaning we didn't do anything post. The only thing that was added in post that I'm aware of, I think there's an outside scene of the building as a whole that we added some extra snow to. So some of the snow is a little bit fake. You can't tell, but that was added. And then there's a scene like when the mom is by the bridge taking care of some business where it was in the middle of like an actual snowstorm. And so like the wind would whip snow in one shot and then there'd be nothing in another. So I think we kind of matched some of that. But as far as like the blood and guts, that's all Nate and his team. So I'd never worked with him before. And I actually learned a lot just from working with him because I didn't know how to approach that even as a director. I'm like, can we deconstruct this and work backwards? Tell me what you're thinking and how do we do this? Like, because I don't know. I know what would look cool, but so he's like, let's start with that. What would look cool? And I go, just as real as possible, man. So he was like, if we do this, we need to get the actors in on this day. I'll do a head mold. And so, that actress, Michelle.
So everything they're building on to the actors. And
yeah. So being on a sound stage, it was a big warehouse. He had a whole prop area that he brought in some stuff and, like limbs and things like that and skeletal things, but then they were building off of that, if you will. And so there's a scene that would need a prosthetic head that, that was all Nate. He created that based off of a molding from her. And I thought it looked really great.
It's a gory movie too. It's not, it doesn't cut away when it's time for blood and gore. It's like, there. It's very, like you said, realistic and very super believable. I mean,
that's what we try to do. I mean, there's a scene, we got really fortunate a couple times. One was with blood and guts. Like we were supposed to shoot the scene in the bathtub where the blood and there's kind of a clogged tub, if you will. There was a fly that just happened to wander in. And I was like, Gav, come shoot the fly. So when the scene is the fly going around, that's actually there.
You feel like you can smell that scene. You're like, oh.
Exactly. Well, and a couple of the scenes when they're doing stuff in the bathtub, I mean, Nate's in the bathtub. Like, handing like pieces. Some of the scenes there's a girl in the bathtub because we had to show her, but like other than that, like Nate's in there with this, doing it and things like that. Some of the other things were like, I mean, any of the blood, the guts, like the tongue thing, like all of that is just Nate. And we had a great stunt coordinator, Gary Casper, so everybody was safe. It was very intimidating for me because I was like, if this looks fake, we're screwed.
Yeah.
And I told Nate, I'm like, tell me how much time you need for each scene and be overestimate, because I'm going to make sure I give you the time you need to make this look awesome. I'd rather pull time from other places. And I think that really worked. And so we kind of, we auditioned a few things like, will this work and stuff, but I give all the credit to Nate and Jennifer on that for what they were able to do. And then also the actors as a whole, they just, they come prepared and they're willing to like do what it takes to like really sell the stuff. I mean, I didn't have to go like, I never said give me more to any of the actors on this.
They were doing.
I was like, holy shit.
It's almost like there's a light and there's a dark to this film. So when it's time to be dark, it could be 10 minutes before you get back out to some snow and to some or a flashback where he's, we're pushing the story along. But there is some blood and gore.
Yeah, we want to do very practical, and Nate, to his credit, and I've got to work with him again since then. He's just very talented. I think he's a genius too, and I think when you give these people that are skilled in their positions, first, if you surround yourself with the right people, that's a testament to the team that was put together in Alabama, to Stephen and Hemdi that put that team together. That's the starting point. And then if you empower them and you give them the time and the energy and whatever efforts you need from me as a director to get the job done, the same thing with the actors. That's when magic happens. It's when you ask someone to do what they're not capable of doing, or you're the wrong people in the wrong position, or you're asking people to do something that you wouldn't do. Or there's a lot of ways that I look at it in terms of just as a whole. My biggest job is to create a safe space for people to come and do what they need to do to tell the story that is originally here that's now coming out into the rest of the world.
Yeah, and it's not an easy story to tell, right? Like, I mean,
not at all. Not at all.
We haven't even really touched on how extreme this film. I mean, a little bit, but I'm trying not to spoil it for people because I do feel like we need to kind of get the word. I mean, we need more people to see the film.
I agree.
When did this get released digitally?
This was March 12th, I want to say.
Okay.
March 12th. Yeah, I feel like March 12th.
Okay, so it's been 6-7 months. It's been out.
Is that right? Let's see. Might be drawing a blank.
We got to get more eyeballs on the project. So I'm trying not to spoil it, but man alive.
Make sure I've got the right month, because now I'm wondering. All right, hold on. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be word of mouth in terms of like really getting this film out there. No, I was way off. Sorry, this was not even close. It was August 12th.
That sounds
August
right.
Way off. I don't know where I came up with March. Go ahead.
It was a weekend, and my son's birthday is the 9th, and I remember it being pretty close tied into that. And I was like,
yeah.
When I watch it the following week. Holy smokes! So, what's some? We talked a little bit about reviews and people being a little bit upset about the long extended smoking scene, or you changed the location, or you fucking didn't follow this part of the story. What's an interesting piece of feedback that someone's passed along after watching it? What's been something that's been shocking even to you? Like,
it's meaning in like a positive light, or just in general?
Yeah, just something that kind of took you by surprise.
Honestly, I think the biggest thing is, I did the whole, because small films like this, it's really got to be word of mouth, and it's just getting people out. So, I went through my phone and just texted people and family members, and I was very honest. I have like family members that are like highly religious, and
sure.
It's certainly not going to be in their wheelhouse. And then seeing those family members watch this and then telling me like, wow, great job. Wow. But so I was like, I guess surprised to see who was actually.
That's so cool, dude.
To support, yeah, because not everybody gets that, and sometimes we take that for granted too. We being me, and for sure, and just people in general, that people do love you and that they do want to support what you're trying to do, even if it makes them uncomfortable. But I think there's just been
you gotta separate the art from the artist, right?
I think that's part of it. I have a line in Rough Draft, the new movie that's coming out, and we actually. There's a saying like write about what you know, and Jeff Fahey's character is playing it's a very interesting character, but he's like, what does that say about me? He's playing a writer, and so that's kind of me talking to myself too, because I've said this for years. I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and I always wondered, like, when Tabitha King's laying next to him and they have kids and stuff, like, but is he that messed up, or is he like kind of the most normal human being? And so it's kind of these wonderful things where you kind of wonder where the line between reality and creativity kind of blur. I'm clearly drawn to darker stuff, but you brought up earlier, I think what the part of that is like, as a society, we watch serial killer stuff too. It's like, what is that? Why do we do that? But part of it is curiosity, because that is a part of, there's an animalistic side of us as humans that we normally wouldn't cross over. Like, I'm never going to go kill someone and be a serial killer. But if I can watch that from the safety of my couch and try and figure out, I can't even wrap my head around someone doing that. There's a morbid curiosity to it with the safety, the confines of like watching it. But again, I go back to this one where it's like there were real people who were involved with this. So there is kind of a weight that goes to that too. So I just think the reviews that I liked, obviously I love positive reviews. Who doesn't? But
sure.
I just think like yours stood out to me. I found yours late at night. I think you had just posted it.
Oh, I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, you posted it, and I reached out to you immediately, and it's like, because I do a search, because on social media, it's not because I'm stalking people that are watching my film, but it's just like I just want to thank people that are watching it, even if it's someone on Facebook that's like, I just watched the most fucked up movie, and I'm like, thanks for watching it. It means a lot to me. It gets a little complicated now because the film, I don't know if I should even say this, but I can see that it's getting leaked onto like these like cheap, like free sites, and people are watching it there, and then I'm like, God, do I comment on their thing? Because at least they're watching it and posting about it. But then other people are going to go to the thing. It's like taking out of the money out of the investor's hands. It's not the point, but I get it. Those things exist. But I think what surprises me is it's not. I don't think there's a surprise. I think people either really think this film's great or they really hate it. And I was okay with both. And going into this, I was okay with both.
That's what you want. You want to listen.
Yeah, I don't want any. I want it to be polarizing, and it's like I didn't want to make a film. If someone walked away with this film with no,
you failed. Then you're like,
then what's the point? Like this is like I compare it. It's not a great comparison, but Human Centipede. Nobody watches Human Centipede and goes like, whatever. You're either like, that was the most fucked up movie ever, or whoa, what the hell was that? Like there's a visceral reaction one way or the other. So I feel like there's that. I think what drives me nuts is like the negative reviews that have nothing to do with the movie. There's like one online review that just the whole 8 minutes on YouTube is just about why did I take it to Alaska? And it's like, that's your review? Like, how is this helping anybody? It doesn't make any sense. Like, the same thing with the violence to women. It's like, I was raised by my mom. I'm raising a daughter. I clearly am not pushing for violence towards women. I think that's the most ridiculous take. If that's your take on this movie, these people sometimes, and I saw this even with Hangman, for example. People want to get on their soapbox and they want to talk about something, and they'll push this narrative to do whatever. I mean, for Hangman, someone was like, I can't believe Michael Caisie's getting more jobs after this. And it's like, you're attacking my livelihood in a review for a movie that I just wrote. I didn't direct or produce this, I just wrote it. And I was like, the personal attacks are a little weird to me, but that's, you got to kind of shut that off. And I worked with Jay Moore, the comedian, and he's a friend of mine on Hunter's Moon. And he was like, you shouldn't read any comments under any of your social posts or anything. He's like, you're going to just go crazy. He's like, I don't read any of it. Like, don't. I'm like, okay. It's still hard though, because this one in particular, I have to be kind of hands-on, but yeah.
Well, this one, I remember it was late at night, so I watched it and I paused it, and there's like 20 minutes left. And I remember I was getting my wife from the couch to bed. I was like, I gotta go talk about this movie. I can't stop thinking about this movie. It's got to be somebody else's problems. I just kept thinking about that. But the next day I was like, I'm gonna watch that movie again. Like I might have had a beer or two, right? So I was already kind of relaxed, but that had the fireplace going. I was like, it was a cold, comfortable movie about the worst subject matter. And I was like, I got to share it with somebody. Someone's got to find this fucking movie, man.
No, I appreciate. I mean, this is the thing I've been doing. Like, I love the fact that I listened to your review right away. I was like, I just love your format. I love the things that you had to say about it. There was an intellectual aspect to it, and then also, I think that's part of it too. I wanted this to work on several levels. I want it to work for like true crime fans. I want it to work for people that just love blood and guts. Then I want it to have work on levels for people that are looking for some kind of sophisticated kind of, I don't want to say art film, because that kind of also has like a negative connotation to some aspects, but it's like I wanted it to work on kind of all these levels. And I think when people like yourself get it, and then you not only get it, but you have me on, which is very gracious of you, thank you. Absolutely. And then help promote the film with nothing behind it other than the fact that you appreciate the film itself. That means a lot to me. That tells me that, like, I would write if no one read it. I don't know if I would make films and TV shows if no one watched. Like there's a difference. There's a disconnect there for me where it's like, I want to share I want to share the experience with somebody. Whether you hate it or love it, at least you're watching it, right? So with writing, I can just write myself a poem, and it's just for me. I don't need to share it. If someone wants to read it, that's cool. But yeah,
that's kind of where YouTube started for me. Is I play a lot of music, so I write a lot of lyrics. Wrote a lot in high school and after school, and it's just like I have thoughts. If you can just get them out somehow, but you can actually take it, form the vision, then direct it. Excellent job, excellent film. If people haven't seen No Tears, I mean, it's going to take a piece of you, but people that watch my channel are going to really like this film. Like, they just are. It's fucking great.
Appreciate that. Yeah, your music choices too for your promotions. I'm like, I get your fan base. I'm with you. I'm in your fan base.
I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah.
Well, real quickly, what do we know about? Is this going to have any sort of physical release? I want to kind of wrap things up with you, but
no, we can talk forever. But I know you have something to do. So SNR Films they're distributing it, and I'm close with those guys. I was told there's going to be at least a DVD release. I don't know the details. I also think that there's still, I don't know how much I'm supposed to talk about this or not. Not that it's this big secret, but I do think that there is some positioning maybe for it to get on like some streaming
Shudder.
network.
Come on, that would be awesome.
You said it, I didn't. I don't know.
Put it Shudder. Put it on there. What are you doing? There's so many worse movies on Shudder, even Netflix. Put this movie on there.
I think it lends itself to any of those, really. So it's just a matter of like finding who's buying what and all that stuff. So right
Bloody
now,
Disgusting. I'm looking at you too. Come on, guys.
They did like their initial release announcement for it, and then they haven't like reviewed it or anything like that. It's like weird because I like reached out to them because of past films and stuff, but I don't. It's very weird. I'm like, just review it, guys. I've seen you review stuff that like. I'll put my film up against that. Nothing, not like competition, but
super competently made, super easy to like. It's a very digestible, emotional, gritty, shocking, traumatizing, but kind of smooth. Like this is kind of made for modern audiences. It feels like I don't know. Could be the color, could be the music, like we talked about. But this movie, I think it's going to reach people if they can find it. So we got to get the word out there.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling everybody. I think like it'll have its audience, and it might be one of those trickle things, and it might get its like real like 15 minutes of fame. Just keep getting different points if it gets picked up in certain places and stuff like that. But the more it gets out there, it's also for like a big picture thing for me, like independent film in general. The more that people watch it, the more chances we have to keep making films like this. Like this is not an easy sell to investors. Like, we're going to go make this incredibly hard movie to watch. It's incredibly graphic. Someone posted like, I'm making a list of like the most horrific movies of the year, and I'm like,
it's going to be on there.
It's on there. Yes, like hope
this
it
is
does.
it. This is the most disturbing, and I watched them all. So this is, but it's just. I was surprised there wasn't anybody talking about it. I was like, how did I miss this movie? But if it was August, it's still kind of getting picked up. But it's the Halloween season, dude. It's time to get this thing.
I think there's going to be some marketing around Halloween, and I think the big thing too, for anybody who's listening, and yourself included, anybody who's rented it, particularly on Amazon or bought it, go on Amazon, the website, because it won't let you do it on the app, and just do a review. Because the more reviews, the algorithms for Amazon is huge. I think we got like, I don't know what the number is now, but I've been pushing people for that because it's really easy. Like, people will support me and they'll watch the film. The numbers are okay. We're doing pretty good numbers wise, but then no one ever reviews it. And Amazon doesn't make it easy too, which is infuriating, because if you're on Prime on your TV, there's no way to do it. You have to go onto the website, and then if you have like other weird things. Like, I think if you haven't spent more than $50 in the year, you can't review stuff. It's just so stupid. They're trying to like keep bots out and stuff. I get all that, but it's like,
what's frustrating for me even is if I go and I Google it, it doesn't have anything about your name. It doesn't, like, you got to scroll down a little bit. Like, it doesn't have the home landing page like a lot of other movies.
Oh, really? That's weird.
So, or even really where you can rent it. So I just, right time, right place. I want to say it was either Bloody Disgusting or iHorror.
Yeah, both of them. I think both of them have been good to us. Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing, is like the more, because also the algorithms with Amazon will do, like, let's say you watch Hostel or something like that. It might say, if you like this, you might like this. And the bigger we go, it'll put us underneath these other films. And that's where people kind of really start to. It used to be in like hard media, like if you got into the bargain bin of like Walmart or at Blockbuster, for example. I'm aging myself here for sure, but dating myself. That was where people really started to find, and that was where like filmmakers made some good money too, because people would just buy it because it was like $1.
Super cheap.
So we don't have that. So yeah, I was told that there'll be a DVD copy, which I'm hoping, because my other films have that. So I'm thinking that this certainly shows itself, and I'm a fan of the old.
Yeah. Most of my audience, that's what they like too. A lot of physical stuff. Yeah. So keep me posted. I will. What is it? $4 to rent or $10 to own it? I've watched it 3 times.
Yeah, I think it's $3.99 to rent, and it's not. I mean, it's not over. I mean, it's on iTunes, it's on Apple TV, it's on or Apple Plus or whatever their thing is. Amazon. Sorry, Apple. I don't have it, so I'm trying to put it. But all the major streaming things.
And
Yeah.
what can we? Where can we find you? What's coming up next? What can we plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, the things that are coming up now is, like I said, Rough Draft with Jeff Fahey, Mina Savari, and Lachlan Monroe. That's probably a week away from being completely finished. And so I don't have any like release information on that, but I know it's going to be sold. They're going to be selling it at AFM and stuff for distribution and things like that. So that's in the process. That takes like this level of quality of No Tears and puts it in a little bit more of a marketable film, I guess to say, like more of a broader audience. Let me say it that way. Like my aunt, who I didn't think would watch No Tears, I think would watch Rough Draft. It's more like along the lines of a Stephen King novel or a Twilight Zone episode or Black Mirror. So same kind of like high quality. There's some twists. There's some. I like trying to elevate the genre. It's horror again, obviously horror thriller. And then my producing partner and I are getting ready to hop on planes. I'm going on Monday actually to Kosovo to go film another low budget horror film in Kosovo, which will be very much not in story wise in the vein of No Tears, but filming style, budget, things like that. It'll be another labor of love in terms of like, there's not going to be a big name actor involved and stuff. I've got a great cast involved with it, and it's a script I wrote. And so,
what could happen when you just do this? I mean, this movie turned out amazing, and now you want to go discover your other films, people that don't know. I'm going to be checking out Hunter's Moon tonight. I'm excited. And that one's pretty widely available. That one I see.
Hunter's Moon is on Tubi, so you can watch that for free.
It's Thomas Jane, Jay Moore. There's a bunch of people.
Yeah, Sean Patrick Flannery.
Flannery's in it.
Hangman, which is the one I wrote with Pacino, Carl Urban, and Brittany Snow. I think that's on Tubi as well. The Island I wrote with Michael Jai White. That's an action movie. I think that's still on Stars. But for your horror audience, what else? Purgatory is an interesting. It's basically Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, set in like an actual man-made cave in Armenia, where a group of strangers all get trapped in this cave. And
where can we find that one at?
That's actually season 1's on Amazon Prime, but both seasons are on Tubi. So there's 2 seasons, there's 16 episodes. That's a little bit more of a melodrama, if you will, because it came from a Armenian almost telenovela, and so I made it edgier and darker and Americanized it. But you'll see a different kind of storytelling. For someone like I'm very proud of it. It's definitely got an engaging story, and the acting's great too. But it's a little bit different than the other ones. Second Chances is also another TV show that I did. That's on Tubi. That is a straight, almost soap opera. So I don't know if your fan base is going to look for that. Basically, season 1 was I didn't do season 1. It was very soap opera, and then I did season 2 and 3, and I wrote and directed them. And those are only 20-minute episodes, and I was like, they were like, we want you to make it your way. I'm like, it's going to be way darker than season 1. They're like, we don't care. And I'm like, okay. So there's some like, if you go on my Instagram page, actually that's the best thing you can do. Just go to my Instagram page. There's all these reels and videos and stuff. There's like clips from most of my movies. The only one that's not on there is Hunter's Moon. I need to go back. It's been a while since I pushed some of that stuff, but yeah, No Tears is on there. Second Chance is on there. Purgatory is on there. So you get a kind of a feel for. It's kind of how I find stuff too. I get doom scrolling at night, and I'm like, what the hell scene is this? I want this movie. And then somehow it gets you hooked in that little bit. So I've been doing that. You got to keep it 3 minutes around there. But so I found little snippets from all those shows and stuff. And am I forgetting anything? Nova Vita was the show I was telling you about. That's on Freebie, which I think is part of Amazon. I think that's free to watch too. That's a really well put together show. But again, I did a lot of ghost work on that. So it's not. I don't really. I'm proud of it, but I'm not credited the way I would have loved to have been. But I think that's it. Am I forgetting something? Why do I feel like I'm forgetting something? Jeez. And then, of course, No Tears. Just go buy. That's the most, go watch that. I think that's the film I'm most proud of until the next one. Like, that's the...
Straight horror the whole time. Yeah. Excellent movie for people that haven't seen it. $4, guys. I want to thank Michael Caissie for coming on again. Go to his Instagram. Follow. Thanks again, man. I appreciate you coming on, and
thanks, man.
Cool to chop it up again. It's been great.
Yeah, anytime you want, man. Like I said, I love your format. I loved your videos. I loved the setup. I loved our interaction before we got on. I loved it since we've been on even more. So anytime you want a guest, you want to shoot the shit about whatever, I'm on. I love, I mean, I just horrors. I've gotten more sensitive, I've noticed, since I've had kids, but I just, what's the next horror that came out? I mean, I'm still just that guy. I'll always be that guy. Because, this, I will say this as a storyteller and as a filmmaker, and then I know you got to go. Horror's the one film that I can sit there and I don't try and figure stuff out. Like, I can just shut my mind off and I'm just along for the ride. And I'm the biggest baby. I've been that way my entire life. Like, I don't try and play tough. I like to get scared. And if it does its job, like, Scream scared the shit out of me. And I look back and I go, what's wrong with me? But I didn't try and be tough. I'm like, this could really happen. And I really thought they did a great job. So, Nightmare on Elm Street was probably the biggest influence for me in filmmaking in general. So,
love that, dude. That's
Amanda Weiss, who played Tina in part 1, is in Hunter's Moon, and she's great.
See, I just started it. I seen that people were talking about it online. I was like, all right, I got to do my research here.
Working with her, she's a sweetheart. She's so talented. But I told her, I still am afraid of Freddy Krueger, even if
dragging you across the ceiling.
That's her. And I said, I thought working with you would at least help alleviate, because I've never met Robert Englund, but at 46 years old, that music, that voice, it still scares the living shit out of me. And I never want that to change. But I was like, working with you, maybe it'll help. And it was great working with her, but I still have that love for that movie. I'm still like this kid, watching it way too young.
Love that, dude. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, if you're new to me, if you find me, like, comment, subscribe. This is kind of what we do. All those usual things that dumb YouTubers say. So until next time, thanks again. We'll see you.
Thanks again.